Greetings, friends, and welcome to the What's Right show. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Yes, I am Nevada's favorite, recovering Californian. Great to be here with you. As always, you can reach me during the show, which is live and local, coming to you from beautiful downtown Las Vegas. I check my emails throughout the program, sam@whatsrightshow.com. And, of course, also I do periodically peruse my inbox and mentions on X. So that's at What's Right Sam, at What's Right Sam on X, formerly known as Twitter. Today, we are in the 99th day of Donald Trump 2.0. 99th day. Tomorrow will be day 100. And of course, on the eve of this momentous occasion, there are a number of companies out there polling presidential approval numbers. And the big story, of course, starting about yesterday, maybe Saturday, is that these poll numbers are looking terrible for Trump. They're looking terrible. It is right on cue, folks. This was intended to happen right from the very beginning. I started seeing some of these numbers come out. CNN, CBS News, ABC News, Washington Post, New York Times, CNN, all of them with significant, in fact, the ones I just mentioned, double-digit negative numbers for Trump, meaning he's underwater. Approval percentage is 42 to 54, 43 to 57, etc. Now, as soon as I saw it, of course, I thought, okay, this is what the narrative is going to be. These aren't real polls. These are no different than the polls that they had during the election, during the campaign. Where's Ann Seltzer when we need her with Kamala up by 3,000% or whatever it was? Craziness. You have to go with your gut on this. And sure enough, today, Rasmussen, who was one of the most accurate pollsters, Rasmussen polling, of course, Mark Mitchell is his name, actually. Most accurate pollsters in the 2024 election came out with a poll where the numbers are far tighter. Trump a little bit underwater in the Rasmussen poll, but not by a lot. It's 47 to 52. So that's -5. Okay? So, and by the way, you know, it's a little bit further if you go strongly approve or strongly disapprove, but just the general approve, disapprove, which is the number everybody's using, just 5% underwater. Now, why is it? And how important is it to pay any attention to this? To do the right thing in his second term, Trump has to do things that are unpopular. He has to push through these insane judges. He has to make waves with China. And the media is, of course, going to do consistently what they do best, which is to lie, lie, and lie. And some of it is actually so obviously fake and nonsensical that it's so easily disproven. I wonder how it gets any traction. I can't tell you, example of that. I can't tell you how many people over the weekend, of course, the Pope was buried on Saturday, told me, can you believe Trump? Can you believe how disrespectful? He was specifically told to show up at that funeral in a black suit with a black tie. How dare he? Now, I'll tell people, I said, I don't know. How do you know? Where's the memo? Was there a memo? Okay. I wear black to funerals, black or dark gray. I'm a bit of a clothes horse, so I, have, it's just what I do. I always think a gentleman should have a black suit just in case. And by the way, you don't wear black to business meetings, okay? You don't wear that to work. Side note. But then, oh, by the way, the story, can you believe the clown doofus Donald Trump just goes there with a blue suit on. And they showed this little cropped picture of Trump sitting in the front row of the Pope's funeral. And sure enough, he's wearing a blue suit. my dad had a great comment. He goes, I bet you that the Daily Mail, when they put the photo out, deliberately played with the saturation, making the suit, in other words, in the photo look more blue than it was. Sure enough, by about yesterday afternoon, you get all these photos, people coming out. Well, look, I mean, wide angle, right, further back, more dignitaries, world leaders, etc., sitting in the pews at the funeral, and there is a sea of blue. So it turned out to be another one of these nothing burger stories, a complete and total hoax. Trump was not some standout rube dressed in blue at the Pope's funeral. And Melania, of course, looked like $1 million. So why is this relevant? I'm bringing it up because the media will lie about things that are so easily disproved that they're lying about stuff that is also more difficult to disprove, and it's getting some people weirded out. In some of these pollings, they're looking at or asking people about their fear in the economy. And with a deluge of stories, almost every hour, some big story dropping about how you will not be able to buy shoes starting in the middle of next week. People are obviously a little uneasy. How much do you think that's going to be real? The same people that told you back in the 90s that half of Florida was going to be underwater by 2012 are now telling you that within a month you're not going to be able to buy anything in the country. This hysteria, right? They told us 1 in 5 people were dropped dead of COVID. These people have a horrible track record. It's just nuts. But what's going to have to happen is we'll have to get to a point where it's obviously disproven, and all the terrible things that people said will not be manifested, will not come to fruition. I think that's part of the thing. Other part of it, of course, is that I think that the media at some point is going to start losing this fight. Because I saw this, a White House Correspondents' Dinner, which Trump didn't attend, and really it was kind of a snooze fest, other than the fact that some guy gets up there and actually gives a whole speech to the room of Washington, D.C. journalists covering the White House. Hey, guys, bang-up job we did with Biden. Turned out that he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and none of us knew it. Okay. By the way, this is why that event, normally covered breathlessly by the media, was kind of disappeared and fizzled, because I don't think anybody wanted to confront what the guy said. Nobody wanted to touch it. How much credibility does the media have left? This is going to be, they are in death throes, meaning this is the last sort of convulsive movement that the media is exhibiting before the whole thing, whatever remaining trust the American public have or has in them, completely evaporates. So that's where we're at. I just wanted to explain the polling because I got some of my people here texting me and emailing me saying, Sam, do you see the president's approval numbers? He must be totally on the wrong track. And I'm telling you, folks, I know these people like the back of my hand. This is push polling. It is intended to put a bad number out there and to psych people into believing that Trump is a lot less popular than he is. And the only thing that Trump could do wrong here is pay any attention to them. So I'm going to pick this apart. By the way, on the subject of the economy, Scott Besson had a great and a very astute answer for Martha Raddatz on this. Raddatz, of course, boy, it's just, gosh, the first horse in journalism. My goodness. All right, folks, stay tuned. I'll pick this apart for you. Don't worry. And honestly, all Trump has to do is stick to his campaign promises. He campaigned on this stuff. He campaigned on ending sanctuary cities. He campaigned on closing the border, on tariffs, on taking a fight to China, on DOGE. These were all things that he promised the American public and was picked to be president. Not by the media, not by the Supreme Court justices, not by anybody else other than me, you, and a bunch of other people, millions, in fact, of Americans across this country who said enough is enough. The liberal monopoly on American destruction must end. We have to finish it and make America great again. All right, don't go anywhere. The What's Right Show will be back in a moment. Again, my email is sam@whatsrightshow.com. Yep, lots to go over today. It's going to be a packed show, I promise you.
I'm the best.
Personal injury law has been the same for a long time.
The best.
Big egos, greed, and sleazy schemes. We've had enough. Welcome to Sam and Ash, the new standard for personal injury law, where things are done the right way, because you deserve a team that delivers real support and results. When you have both, your whole world can change. Sam and Ash Injury Law, because you deserve what's right.
By the way, short aside here about our friends across the pond in Europe. Apparently Spain, Portugal, and parts of France have no power. Their power grid completely went out. This is what happens when you prioritize Palestine and climate change over important things like your energy infrastructure. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Sam@whatsrightshow.com is my email. So today, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is going to go to the Hill and give Republicans in Congress a little stern talking to about debt. It's just not sustainable. And I hope that our friends in Congress pay close attention to him, because Bessent, of course, is 1,000% right on this. Now, yesterday, Bessent went on ABC's This Week with Martha Raddatz. Raddatz is a foaming at the mouth, wide-eyed, TDS-afflicted fanatic. She's like one of those possums, you know, that gets rabies and then starts attacking anything in sight. This is what Raddatz is like with anything having to do with Trump. So Raddatz, this is, remember I told you about the polling numbers. That polling. They want to make it all about the numbers, about polling. It's the most important thing to Democrats right now, to show what a terrible job Trump is doing in his first 100 days. Today is day 99. Tomorrow is the big day. 100 days in office. Tuesday, the 29th, excuse me. So Bessent sitting there, he looks good on TV, first off. Very measured. Always calm, always unflappable. And Raddatz has already been picking at him for a few minutes. So then she goes, well, what about these poll numbers on the economy? What about these poll numbers? Look at these poll numbers.
The very first time the president's polling numbers on the economy are underwater, with 53% saying it has gotten worse under President Trump, with 72% of those in our poll saying it is very or somewhat likely that his economic policies will cause a recession. Your reaction?
Oh, well, Martha, I haven't seen the polls, and for the past 35 years, my business was analyzing data, so I think we've probably got to dig down in those. But what I do know is that Americans are behaving very different than what the surveys say. So the surveys may say that, but consumers are still spending. So I prefer to look at what Americans are doing rather than how they're answering pollsters.
And it doesn't worry you, the poll numbers that you have seen?
When I start seeing data to the contrary, then we can look at that. But, again, these poll numbers, and also, when I look at some of the things that are being published, there was a story 10 days ago that said this is the worst April for the stock market since the Great Depression. 10 days later, the NASDAQ is now up on the month of April, and I haven't seen a story that says, oh, stock market has biggest bounce back ever. So I think...
It certainly has gone back and forth.
I think a lot of this is media-driven.
Oh, but it perfectly has gone back and forth. No, the point is, right, The stock market goes up, it goes down, and it matters, over a period of time, and you have to define that period of time. The numbers from the beginning of April to the end of April are not bad. We had several days where the market was dropping, 1,000 points here and there. And if you're stuck in that moment, if all you look is, at a 5-day, graph, then of course it looks terrible. But incidentally, I think a lot of voters, I don't even think it's the market. I think that there are a lot of people out there who really think that we're going to be in breadlines in a month. There will be no Nikes to be had, Robbie, because the Chi-Coms are going to stop making the Air Jordans or whatever it is that the cool kids wear now. What's the coolest shoe? What do people wear now? I know it's not the Yeezys. I mean, those are out. Those were hot for a while. Somebody else is going to make them. It's a shoe. It's going to get made. Why can't they be made in the U.S.? By the way, Frank Luntz, this survey, this was unbelievable. He had a focus group of Trump voters. And I'm convinced, Robbie, that Luntz was planning on doing, look how much regret, I'll put it this way, how much regret, buyer's remorse Trump voters have 100 days in. That's what I think was the plan. And Luntz almost passed out in shock because he starts asking people about the stock market. And these are all Trump voters, okay? There's not independents. There's people that voted for him. And it could be independents, but they're all Trump people that voted for him in the last election. And he starts asking about the stock market. Wow.
I need to ask you an issue that no one's brought up and that has crashed your 401ks, most of you. It's your tariffs. Stock market is way down.
It needed a correction.
Oh, so you support it?
Yes. You bet.
Yep.
How many?
And I have to tell you,
how many?
My 401k wasn't impacted at all.
How many? First off, how many of you did not lose any money over the crash of the stock market? One individual, 2 people. So, Serena,
the Biden administration, I lost more money than the Trump administration by far.
2020, like in 2022,
Biden cost me more money.
Yeah, for the whole year.
No one's upset over this.
No.
Nope.
No.
Nobody.
He's
There's
shocked.
not a
There's an
single
endgame here, though.
40-year period in the history of the stock market where the stock market hasn't appreciated at an average rate of about 7%. It's so, yeah, there's ups and downs and corrections, and sometimes people are foolish and they jump out, buy high, sell low. But if people just get in and stay the course, they'll be just fine.
I mean, that's crazy, right? But it rings true with how I feel, how many of you feel that have reached out to me about this. I mean, what have I said here? I'm personally, it has been a painful 3 months. I haven't done as well in the market as I have in the past. I'll put it that way. Now, I would gladly lose a little bit more money if it meant putting China in check. If this was the cost of making our economy better for everybody, bringing manufacturing back into the U.S., I mean, and as a benefit, right? As a benefit, putting the Chi-Coms, in a little bit of a headlock, then that for me would be fantastic. I'm all for it, right? I'm all for it. And I think that's the general tenor of the group. Now, I want to come back because there's a couple other huge gems in this. And it speaks to, if we're talking about a media narrative, that there are people out there with buyer's remorse over Trump. Is this what you voted for? Right? They're pushing that. And it's going to be, I promise you, tomorrow on the 100th day of Donald Trump, it's going to be a big thing. So much regret out there. And Frank Luntz was floored. Trump voters all behind Donaldus Maximus. And for me, I think what they're saying rings true because it's what I feel, and I think it's what you feel as well. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here, friends behind the What's Right microphone. Happy Monday. By the way, Canada today is voting. The Canadians are going to the polls with heavy hearts, and they're gonna elect another Trudeau government. I mean, it's not going to be Justin, but it's going to be the new guy who parachuted in from the where was he in London? He called himself a citizen of the globe at one point. This just it's a wild story. Pierre Poilievre, who really was the favorite, the odds-on favorite to become prime minister, the conservative guy, you've seen him, he was always the one with the quick answers to the liberal reporters. He was really good on his feet, but a little bit of a beta. And I'll tell you what, everybody's saying it's Trump that sunk this for the conservatives. It's not like that at all. Pierre Poilievre sunk this for himself. When Trump came out with the tariffs, all right, Pierre Poilievre could have said something along the lines of, you know what? Trump has a grievance, a legitimate grievance with Canada, and it's time that we step up and be a proud country and treat our, friends across the border fairly. And this liberal government is playing dirty with this, and they are going to get us into trouble. And he could have turned it around. I will support Canada by being the only person who can deal with Trump, because Trump and I will be allies. And whatever crisis you think is coming will be over. I feel like I have to do everybody's job for them, right? So if he had done that, he would be leading right now. Instead, he crapped the bed and went, oh, no, this is unacceptable. And he basically sounded like the liberals. Here's a tweet from him. What is this? How long ago? It already has 1 million views. Was this morning at 7 a.m. our time. President Trump, stay out of our election. The only people who will decide the future of Canada are the Canadians at the ballot box. Such beta energy. Canada will always be proud, sovereign, independent. We will never be the 51st state. Oh, my God. I'm done. He's done, too. Game over. Okay. I'm just explaining to you why things happen the way they do. And, of course, don't be surprised when things don't go the way that some people expected. The polling there has the libs ahead. So, yeah, Mark Carney is the guy who's the interim PM replacing Justin Trudeau. It's the same government. It's the same bunch of losers and socialists. Canada is a failed country. The only thing that may actually happen now as a consequence of the Liberals getting back in power is that it will continue to fail. It'll get worse. Canada will get poorer. Maybe right for the takings, as Trump has suggested all along. Now, I don't want to let this. I don't want to let this beautiful, amazing Frank Luntz panel go to waste. This is so important because here in our country, even though we don't have an election, we're up against this 100-day. It's a thing that happens. The president's first 100 days in office are considered, important, and it's a measure at the 100-day mark at how far the president's been able to get his agenda done. Now, for me, as a Trump voter, I've always felt that basically I would consider myself highly satisfied. Like a 4.5 out of 5. That's where I'm at, 90%. That's pretty high satisfaction. And I think most of the Trump voters that I talk to, you guys, of course, listening, who email me, and then you know, my friends, family, etc., everybody feels more or less the same as I do. So I always find it peculiar when I hear from the media that we Trump voters are somehow disappointed by what Trump has done, and particularly with this big milestone coming up of the 100 days in office. Today, by the way, day 99. So this is where Wednesday, Luntz did a focus group, but then it got released later in the week. Luntz asks them about prices going up. He asks them the question, well, aren't you worried if prices are going to go up? Prices are going to go up. This was also a really important tell from this conversation.
How much do prices have to go up before you say, this is not that great?
I'd rather not buy from China. I'd rather pay more money and buy American.
Same.
And prices only go up if demand is inelastic and if there's no alternative supplies. And they're doing a brilliant job. They're surrounding China with countries that want to manufacture stuff as well. And we do need to bring the stuff back, the strategic stuff for sure.
Yes.
But China is going to be in the soup if they don't knock it off.
Every article of clothing I have on is probably made in China, Malaysia, or somewhere else. Okay, retailers, give me something made in America. I'd gladly buy it, but it's not there. How many American shoe companies have you seen go kaput? There used to be one 30 miles down the road, made Stride Rite, made great shoes. You don't hear from them.
Isn't that exactly right? We used to make shoes in America. Why can't we? And these people on this call from various backgrounds, and if you're watching, you can see where they're from. You have their first names and their location. One guy's here in Nevada, but they're from all over the country, from Ohio, Florida, and elsewhere. And guess what? I think they're all very happy to spend a few more bucks for a product that is made in the USA. So return to a type of patriotism, understanding full well that if we do repatriate manufacturing back in the U.S., it is a win for everybody. The economy goes up. Eventually, our wages, existing wages, go up as well. And the economy just takes off. I've mentioned this over and over again. It's huge. So Luntz is blown away by this. I don't think he was expecting people to be this fanatic. And then enthused for what Trump is doing, truthfully. And then somebody actually says, yeah, we actually need a correction. We just need a correction. And Trump is the corrector.
We just need a correction. We're willing to take whatever it takes.
Ride it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, that's the point.
Stay the course.
You know,
Stay the course.
Exactly. It's been a rough 2 weeks, but guess what? We got 3.5 years to worry.
Back way.
And if it's like this in a year, I'll have another discussion maybe, but I don't think it's going to be.
So it's, again, this is why I don't believe the polling. I don't. These double-digit negative polling that is put out, everybody from Fox News to New York Times, CNN, Rasmussen, of course, has them closer to 5 apart, -5, right? And the fact is that Trump's approval trend line is actually historically pretty good. One of the things that they're doing right now is they're saying that Trump's, polling is historically low. This is fake news. Guess how many New York Times voters? So let's look at the polling, right? New York Times CNN poll. What percentage of the people that they ask, that they poll, do you think are Trump voters? I mean, Trump got 50% of the vote, right? You can debate what some fraction, but look, 50% of the vote. Would it surprise you if you learned that Siena, New York Times Siena, only has about 37% of Trump's 2024 voters? ABC News, Washington Post, only about 34% of Trump voters. So so what are we missing? We're missing, what, 16 to 13% of support? They want to come out with the story that Trump is finished, that he's just, everybody's upset at him, that what he's doing is not popular, because guess what? In the hallways of the New York Times, Trump's policies are not popular. But on Main Street, USA, across this country, people love it. And it's not just the economy. We recognize that there has to be a reckoning. But there's also what? There's also immigration. And it's a huge topic. And there's a lot going on. And over the weekend, by the way, this really blew up because that one judge out in Michigan that was arrested, and I mentioned this on Friday, but this absolutely, Wisconsin, excuse me, Hannah Dugan. This what happened in that courtroom, the more details that come out, turns out I was right on Friday when I described it the way I did. She really did escort a criminal illegal alien out her private entrance out of her office in the courthouse to evade capture by ICE agents, and then lied to the agents that were there in the building. Scandalous stuff. And I think Americans are done with this, right? They're done with, rolling out the red carpet for crazy illegal immigrants, having these dangerous people in the country, Biden allowing at least 11 million, if we work with that number, 11 million people into the country, and then being told by the same media that now tells us that Trump is not popular, being told that, for example, Aurora, Colorado is not run over by criminal gangs, Trenderegua, etc. That the things that people are seeing happen with their own eyes, in fact, are not occurring. All right, so let's take a break. But this stuff is good. And by the way, I love that the Trump people did this judge arrest, and I love that they are fighting for the narrative to get out of what this woman did. Extremely important. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT, this hour of the What's Right show, brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right. Attorney General Pam Bondi went on Fox News late Friday to explain what happened with that judge out in Wisconsin, and it's a doozy. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the program. So here's what Pam Bondi said. Again, this is our Attorney General. I was laying this out, and these are, by the way, these facts are put in the indictment. So, and there's an affidavit under penalty of perjury attesting to these facts by the FBI agent who was there. So, let me put it this way. What Bondi is saying here, I think is very likely to be 100% true.
And to set the stage for you and Sandra, this was truly horrific. This guy was in court being prosecuted by a state prosecutor for domestic violence battery. He had beat up two people, a guy and a girl, hit the guy 30 times, knocked him to the ground, choked him, beat up a woman so badly they both had to go to the hospital. And John, it's so rare for victims to want to cooperate. They wanted to cooperate. They were sitting in the courtroom with the state prosecutor. The judge learns that ICE was outside to get the guy because he had been deported in 2013, came back in our country, commits these crimes, charged with committing these crimes, victims in court. Judge finds out. She goes out in the hallway, screams, screams at the immigration officers. She's furious, visibly shaken, upset, sends them off to talk to the chief judge. She comes back in the courtroom. You're not going to believe this. Takes the defendant and the defense attorney back in her chambers, takes them out a private exit and tells them to leave. While a state prosecutor and victims of domestic violence are sitting in the courtroom.
This is what Trump derangement syndrome will do to you. I mean, this judge just blatantly violated the law, and she's going to go to prison, assuming there is a jury there who will follow the law and not just look to let her off because she did the heroic thing and resisted Trump. Now, what are the reactions to this? Well, David Brooks, PBS NewsHour. Brooks is from the New York Times. This is someone who led the chant, the clarion call that no one is above the law when it came to Trump being prosecuted for a bunch of nothing crimes. David Brooks now says, well, Judge Dugan was probably what she did was illegal, maybe, don't have all the facts, but boy, is she a hero.
Well, obviously, they're trying to send a note of intimidation, not only to her, but to all judges and maybe to all Americans. But I don't yet know the specific details of this case, whether she escorted the guy out the jury door or whether she's let him. So that's all murky. I don't want to comment on this specific case. But especially on the issue of immigration, there are a lot of people who are appalled by what the administration is doing. And there will be times for civil disobedience. And to me, let's say she did escort this guy out the door. If federal enforcement agencies come to your courtroom and you help a guy escape, that is two things. One, it strikes me as maybe something illegal, but it also strikes me as something heroic. And in times of trouble, then people are sometimes called to do civil disobedience. And in my view, when people do civil disobedience, they have to pay the price. That's part of the heroism of it, frankly. And so you can both think that she shouldn't have legally done this, and that morally protecting somebody against, or maybe not even in this case, but in other cases, frankly, a predatory enforcement agency.
Heroic to the readership of the New York Times. Ellie Honig, CNN senior legal analyst, was a lot less charitable about this, to be blunt, saying this on Friday, no uncertain terms. It's
looking at the complaint, let's strip the politics out of it. This is a crime. If they can prove what happened here, it is a crime. This judge, let's strip the Trump of it all out. Let's strip the immigration of it all out. Let's say law enforcement shows up at a building with an arrest warrant. They're looking for person A. Person B then says, hey, there's a secret escape door out back. I'm going to show you the way, and then ushers that person out the back door. That is textbook obstruction.
And also, I will add, if a materially false statement was made to the federal agents, that also is another separate crime that has occurred. Ken Dilanian, MSNBC Justice and Intel correspondent, felt similarly.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the Justice Department thinks they have a really good position here. Pam Bondi was on television today boasting about this arrest and using language that prosecutors don't tend to use, especially in the pre-indictment phase, not saying allegedly, saying that it happened. And look, I think a lot depends on if the facts are true, as alleged by the FBI agent in the court papers today. It doesn't look great for the judge, no matter how you slice it. But then the other question is, was this kind of escalatory action, was this the best course of action, to actually go and arrest her and take her to court and charge her federally? That's a big step.
Well, it is a big step, but it has to happen. Because what you have is state law in these sanctuary cities and state policies, again, in these sanctuary cities, these crazy liberal hotspots across the country are ignoring and willfully operating against direct opposition laws passed by the U.S. Congress. This isn't how it works. We have the supremacy clause. The federal government comes in and says it's this way. We have a law passed by Congress. It's illegal to be in the country without permission. End of story. You can be removed. And the priority is being placed on criminal aliens. Now, this is there was a press conference about this. Tom Homan at a White House press briefing was pretty direct about it, and he said this.
I said from day one, you don't have to support ICE's operations. You can support sanctuary cities if that's what you desire to do. Sanctuary cities can stand aside and watch ICE keep their communities safe, because any public official, whether you're mayor, city councilman, or governor, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. And ICE has been clear, we're targeting public safety threats and national security threats. I can't believe there's any elected official, and especially a judge, that doesn't believe we should be doing that, and they should be helping us. But ICE have from day one, you can sit aside and watch, you can argue against us all you want and protest all you want, but when you cross that line, and I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien from ICE, you will be prosecuted, judge or not.
Why do people not listen to him? It's happening, folks. And I think we're all very happy it is. All right, back after this, Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840 KXNT. Rarely wrong, always right. Sam Mirejovsky here behind the What's Right microphone. Greetings, friends. Welcome to the program. Sam@what'srightshow.com is my email. So, funny thing in D.C., Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri introduced back in January an act that is now being voted on, preventing elected leaders from owning securities and investments. Preventing elected leaders from owning securities and investments. Now, what do you think this is about? They're playing, finally, they're doing something about all these people in Congress getting rich off of insider trading. Yes, well, because they know things oftentimes before we do, by virtue of certain bills moving through committees that favor certain companies or certain industries. So then they call their brokers or get online and move, their investments over to those companies, and those companies then, stocks go up and they make money. But what did you notice about the name? One of the most prolific people in Congress who's made an absolute killing on the stock market during her tenure, lengthy tenure in office, is Nancy Pelosi. Preventing elected leaders from owning securities and investments. PELOSI, the acronym of this bill. Yes, the Republicans in the Senate named their bill Pelosi. This is just too good not to share, so please enjoy that one. By the way, as Republicans are trying to get actually something meaningful done, a Democrat congresswoman, I misspoke. It's actually tough to see what gender he is based on his photograph. What's his name? Sheree Senator from Detroit. He's an Indian guy, but he's in the Senate. In the House. And Michigan's 13th congressional district, which I think may be short for MS-13. Anyway, this guy's filing articles of impeachment against Trump. Well, it's nothing, right? It's a performance. On what basis, you ask? Well, he's saying that Trump is not fighting for America, and he's ignoring the Constitution. So this is a stunt. It's not going to do anything. People are already panning him. I think it was, who was it here? I want to make sure I give this proper credits to. Some comedian here wrote that the guy looks like Pedro. Yes. What's from help me out, Robbie. Oh my gosh, what's Napoleon Dynamite? Thank you. Napoleon Dynamite. Pedro, the little friend that is Napoleon's friend in that great movie. Okay, complete clown stuff. Now, let me tell you something. One of the things that everybody is melting down, everybody in the mainstream media is melting down over right now, is that people woke up this morning and found on the White House lawn a bunch of posters. Arrested for distribution of fentanyl and a picture of the person, or lewd act in front of a child, picture of the person. These are perps that were arrested for certain crimes and have subsequently been detained. These are illegal aliens in the country doing bad things who were left alone by the previous administration and are now being rounded up. Now, this, some people, speaking of performative, have accused Trump of just, taking a victory lap or spiking the football, just sort of gratuitous performance, art of his own. But I think that this is really brilliant. Let me explain why. Trump and his administration, particularly the people, the people on the comm side of it, they want to absolutely make this moving forward, make the Democrats support illegal immigrant criminals. They want to set this up. So when Trump does something like this, when they put up these signs, it forces the media and the Democrats to say, well, this is terrible. Well, this is awful. Well, you can't do this. Well, all this stuff, right? And it's, to the American public, I like to step back from it. If you poll Americans, I'm convinced of this, and you ask them, is fentanyl a problem in the country? I think most people agree that it is. So then when you put up an illegal immigrant that was arrested for example, smuggling fentanyl or selling fentanyl on the streets of the country, 2 kids, potentially, who are dying from it, and you get the Democrats to express sympathy for that person, what does that do to the Democratic brand? I think this is the way that ultimately we win the midterms. Let the Democrats dig in as the party opposed to deporting criminal aliens. Think back again to this Judge Dugan character. She has somebody in her courtroom who is on trial for what? Battery and domestic battery. Beat 2 people so badly that they ended up both in the hospital. The victims are in court. The ICE agents, federal agents sent by Tom Homan, show up to arrest this person and to potentially deport them. And what does the judge do? The judge allows that person to, through her private offices behind the courtroom, which we refer to as chambers, from her chambers, escape out the back door. Let him through the jury door. This is a criminal defendant. They've gone so far out on a limb for these criminal illegal aliens. The more that they do this, the less sympathetic they become with a wide majority of the American public. I'm convinced of that. So Jonathan Lemire, MSNBC, today on Morning Joe, was apoplectic over the signs. The signs are there. The signs, cannot believe that Trump put these signs up. Listen to what, Morning Joe. Oh my goodness, this is so good.
White House has put up about 100 posters of what they say are unauthorized immigrants who have been arrested for violent crimes. You can see them there. They put them up on the driveway of the White House. If you look here, that's the West Wing just at the forefront, the executive mansion itself to the left. But what's particularly noteworthy about this location is it is right directly behind the positions where TV correspondents do their hits from the White House lawn. So therefore, no matter what network you're on, that includes MSNBC, if you're doing a hit from the White House right now, those pictures will be behind you. The White House doing a briefing in about a half hour about what they're doing here.
Oh, and I think MSNBC in a subsequent broadcast that was in fact taking place from the White House lawn there, blurred out the posters, Robbie. I don't know if you saw this. They blurred the posters. They are protecting the names of the innocent. These people were nowhere to be found when Joe Biden and his cronies via his auto pen, unleashed mayhem at the border and put really bad people in your neighborhood and mine. Nowhere to be found. They carried water for that, and they wanted 4 more years of it. And now that Trump is coming in and cleaning it up, what do they want? They're on the side of the criminals. They're on the side of the illegals. And it's so bad that even lawful illegal immigrants don't want these people in their communities here in the U.S. I guarantee it. This is such bad strategy. Okay, quick break here. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Sam at what'srightshow.com is my email. This hour of the program brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law. In a crash, call Sam & Ash 702-820-1234 because you deserve what's right.
The Sam & Ash team, they wanted me to have the best care. They had my interests at heart. I have an enormous amount of gratitude. I cannot say enough thank you.
Sam Mirejovsky here, Nevada's favorite recovering Californian behind the What's Right microphone. So yesterday, a piece was published in the New York Times. Normally, I'm not too keen on reading what the Times prints, but this one was very interesting and sad. Very sad. The story: missteps, equipment problems, and a common but risky practice led to a fatal crash. And this is, of course, a piece about the January 29th collision between an Army helicopter and a regional jet near Reagan National Airport. Now, the byline of this is that the failures were far more complex than previously known. Nowhere in this piece is the acronym DEI mentioned, okay? They don't talk about the qualifications of the female captain pilot of the helicopter. But we know a lot more about what went down. This woman who was flying the plane apparently was on a check ride that she had to do with a military flight instructor once a year. It's not even really clear to me from the piece how much flying this gal did, but her check ride was an annual check ride. Had to do it. Her name, Captain Rebecca Lobach. She was an aspiring doctor, but but she had to go and have these evaluations done. So to me, it sounded from the tenor of the piece that she didn't do a lot of flying. Now, with her was an experienced pilot who also was serving as a check airman, somebody to verify and confirm that pilots' flight abilities are up to snuff. Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd Eves was his name. Now, in the minute or so leading up to the crash, maybe minute and a half, there were multiple times when this flight instructor told her to go lower, to turn left. In fact, the very last thing heard on the cockpit recording, apparently, is him telling her to turn left. And that's where the story or the piece here in the New York Times ends. This guy literally goes, he says he responds, 8:46. He's on the radios. This is normal. Whoever's flying an aircraft, it's two-pilot operation. If it's a two-pilot aircraft, the person in the right seat who isn't flying operates the comms, operates the radios. So the flight instructor's, his voice is the one on the radio. She's flying, the aircraft. And he says, Pat, 25 has traffic, but Pat, by the way, is the acronym for this flight that they had. 25 has traffic in sight. So they saw it. Now, whether they saw it or a different plane, we don't know. But at any rate, they saw it, and then he turns over to her and says, "Hey, we gotta turn left." Absolutely wild stuff. That was their last communication. What else did he say here? Yeah, so, it literally says they were 100 feet higher than they should have been, and they needed to move left. Direct, immediate intervention was needed that night. Instead of seeing and avoiding Flight 5342, Captain Lobach continued flying straight at it. Absolutely wild. So what was this all about? It's going to be a year to get the NTSB report. They're talking about a lot of things, right? The controller was doing two different things at the same time because they were down one person. Somebody left early that day around 3:30. The crash happened just before 9. They're talking about the fact that this helicopter, because it was operating as basically doing a procedure of preparing for removing members of Congress and other high-ranking government officials from the Capitol in the event of an emergency, did not have its ADSB transponder on. So that's the GPS locator that will every second, or maybe even more often, sends a location of the airplane or the helicopter. But they had it turned off, so all they had was the every few seconds an updated ping, and these helicopters can move pretty quickly up and down, left and right. So just a tragedy that the gal wasn't listening to him. That's the critical takeaway. He told her to turn. She didn't do it. Absolutely wild stuff. Maybe, just maybe, the woke military under Joe Biden, under Lloyd Austin, that now Pete Hegseth is trying to move mountains to undo, right? Spent a lot of time talking about woke topics, like, for example, ending the patriarchy. And I don't know if you've ever sat through one of these lessons or listened to people who are true believers of this nonsense talk. And one of the things that they will always say is it's done. We're done with men telling women what to do. Stop mansplaining stuff. And this poor young lady flying this airplane, flying this helicopter, who then went on to kill 70 people, maybe she just didn't want to hear it from a man, because when she went to elementary school, junior high, high school, college, every teacher or every other teacher, and certainly every professor, told her, if you're a woman, stop listening to men. Down with the patriarchy. Do it your way. Trust yourself. But here she's a pilot. There are rules. When you're on a check ride and your check airman tells you, no, flight, do this, you listen. People are saying, well, her rank was higher than his. That doesn't matter. She's getting her training for the helicopter. So even though DEI doesn't appear anywhere in this article, I think it confirms to me, sadly, what this whole thing was all about from the beginning. This gal should not have been flying this helicopter. And if she insisted on doing it, she should have continued to listen to her trainer. So many people are dead, families destroyed, a disaster of epic proportion, the most deadly aviation accident in the U.S. in 15 years. And it was all avoidable. And the New York Times wants to say, well, they didn't. If we had one more person in the, in the tower, if the ADSB transponder was on, if they hadn't been given permission to fly with visual separation, which is where the pilots are given autonomy to basically operate the vehicle in a way, aircraft in a way that avoids traffic of other airplanes. But all of that is a big. If she had just listened and been a good enough pilot, because I think one thing that's coming from this, it's very much the helicopter's fault. So the whole thing is just absolutely tragic. All right, when we come back, CBS is in a fight with Trump. They are in a terrible fight with Trump, and 60 Minutes just had their boss fired. And they're very sad about it. Last night, they actually talked about it in an open mutiny on air. I'll tell you what I think about this when we come back. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. By the way, have you followed this purse snatching story? Kristi Noem's purse got stolen at a restaurant. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, KXNT. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Cabinet Secretary, was out at a restaurant, and apparently her Gucci purse got stolen. Got literally just was taken. Now the story. Look, I mean, I didn't talk about it in the moment because, of course, I can't believe that her security allowed something like that to happen. I mean, it's an extraordinary breach. But they found the guys that did it. They're two Chilean nationals. And yeah, I actually, this is an example of something where I don't have the answer to it. I'm just throwing the question out there. Or I would say I'm throwing out the observation. And that is that for whatever reason, Chile seems to export an inordinate amount of criminals into this country. I've only been to the airport in Chile once or twice. I've never visited the country in earnest, but I've always thought of Chile as a sophisticated, nice place. And I think it's because of that. I think that because I'm looking at these guys and they look polished. I mean, these are not thug guys. And I'll tell you, the criminals a lot of these gangs that are burglarizing homes, high-end homes. When you read about celebrities in the Hollywood Hills, in Beverly Hills, that have their homes, they go out to dinner for 3 hours and come home and their house has been completely ransacked. No alarm, no nothing. Clean entry, clean exit. Grab all the purses, the jewelries, just the stuff they know they can sell. They're very good. And my law enforcement friends have told me for years that it's Chilean gangs. I don't know. If somebody here has the skinny on this, let me know. Email me, sam@whatsrightshow.com. So, Chilean gangsters, pickpockets, thieves, whatever, snatched the Gucci handbag belonging to Kristi Noem, which was probably a mistake because I know they're used to, these criminals are used to stealing handbags with impunity, right, Robbie? I mean, imagine stealing a cabinet secretary's handbag. That's going to get you into a fair amount of trouble. So yeah, anyway, 60 Minutes. For pretty much the last several decades, 60 Minutes has been a complete one-sided propagandist show. And particularly lately, if you look in the era of Trump, 60 Minutes decided that they were just not going to be objective anymore. And 60 Minutes is who edited the Kamala Harris interview and made it seem that she was giving very coherent answers on foreign policy questions when she in fact was not. They took her word salad and jumbled it. And it never would have been known to anybody anywhere, except for the fact that CBS News are run by stupid people, and they went and put out a clip, a promo clip, that showed a question and an answer that Kamala gave in one cut. And that same answer was then bolted onto a different question asked of her that it turns out later she had given a complete nonsensical, typical Kamala Harris answer to. Okay, so this, I'm just explaining here, that's why Trump sued. Trump sued CBS News, Viacom, and said, Paramount, and said, listen, I'm suing you for election interference. You were actually aiding and abetting my opponent. Now, they were. I don't know that the case is a particularly good one, okay, to be perfectly honest. But they absolutely were doing what Trump is accusing them of doing. They got caught red-handed. But that's not the only thing. Remember recently when CBS News did a piece where they traveled to Germany and were gleefully interviewing the cops and prosecutors there in Germany who were going around and arresting people and taking their cell phones and their digital devices over tweets they put up on social media? These people are giggling over, well, it's several thousand euros fine, he. And CBS News, 60 Minutes, breathlessly reported this. I mean, to me, you go back and look at 60 Minutes stories in the era of Trump, and it's garbage. It's one-sided garbage. So the guy behind it, right? There's a executive producer, Bill Owens, and he's the guy responsible for it. And Trump's got this lawsuit, and Paramount wants it to go away, and so this guy gets fired. Bill Owens gets canned. And all hell is breaking out among mainstream media types because if it hasn't happened to their newsroom, they fear it's going to happen soon. And they think it's because of the lawsuit that they're saying, ostensibly, that it's CBS's fear of retaliation from Trump as president that is making him do these things. Now, I'll point out, by the way, I don't think that that's necessarily it, but I'd like to point something out. If it is true, then we are in a radically different, much better place than we were in 2017, 2018. Because in Trump's first term, the media was absolutely not afraid at all to lie about him 24/7 and to obstruct his presidency. And people inside the government weren't afraid to do so either. We were living in an era of lawless, truly lawless, when it came to the official obstruction, and completely unethical when it came to the media obstruction of Trump's presidency, of the government, the will of the people. Things are different now. Now, I think CBS News is realizing that Bill Owens is part of a broader problem. The same problem that is, creating issues for CNN, ABC News, newspapers like the Washington Post, where its owner, Jeff Bezos, had to come in at the tail end of the election, be like, hey, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing a endorsement of Kamala Harris. We're going to go back to keeping our mission neat, clean, and to the point. We're going to write about topics, and we're going to do so dispassionately. And a bunch of people quit. People canceled their subscriptions, and Jeff Bezos shrugged his shoulders and said, doesn't matter, because that's what we need to do. It's a business. They can't afford to be a mouthpiece for radical Democrats. It's a losing proposition commercially. So anyway, against this backdrop, this was last night. My gosh. Yeah, 60 Minutes, Scott Pelley, Scott Pelley, gets up there and right at the end gives this sad, song about his former boss now.
In tonight's Last Minute, a note on Bill Owens, who until this past week was executive producer of 60 Minutes. He was our boss. Bill was with CBS News nearly 40 years, 26 years at 60 Minutes. He covered the world, covered combat, the White House. His was a quest to open minds, not close them. If you've ever worked hard for a boss because you admired him, then you understand what we've enjoyed here. Bill resigned Tuesday. It was hard on him and hard on us, but he did it for us and you. Stories we pursued for 57 years are often controversial. Lately, the Israel-Gaza war and the Trump administration. Bill made sure they were accurate and fair. He was tough that way.
Right.
But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it, but in resigning, Bill proved one thing. He was the right person to lead 60 Minutes all along.
Oh, isn't that nice? So I have a question. By the way, if you're in the least bit persuaded by this, ask one question. Was there one time at any point in Biden's presidency that CBS News, 60 Minutes, did a piece examining the acuity, the mental capacity of Joe Biden? Anybody? Because we now know, right? We have even former media left-wing types like Jay Tapper, still, still very liberal, but, formally defending Biden, now coming forward and saying, hey, we screwed up. And remember, I mentioned at the start of the program that there was a guy who at the White House Correspondent Dinner got up and said something about, hey, guys, bang-up job we all did here to a room full of journalists. We really got this wrong. This is, by the way, his name was Alex Thompson, and he's from Axios. I'm going to play it for you here and ask yourself again, because CBS 60 Minutes is not alone in this. What integrity did they have? How dare they now that their boss is getting fired because their reporting is all one-sided, for whatever the reason is, cry about how this is affecting their quote-unquote integrity?
President Biden's decline and its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. But being truth tellers also means telling the truth about ourselves. We, myself included, missed a lot of this story, and some people trust us less because of it. We bear some responsibility for faith in the media being at such lows. I say this because acknowledging errors builds trust, and being defensive about them further erodes it. We should have done better.
Yeah. That's it. President Biden's decline in its cover-up by the people around him is a reminder that every White House, regardless of party, is capable of deception. But it was obvious to me. It was obvious to you. It was obvious to us. We're not professional reporters. He's pretending the media just, wasn't a part of it? Wasn't a part of the cover-up? They actively carried water for Biden because they've gotten themselves so worked up about Trump that they decided that they would suspend all of their, whatever guardrails they still had in place, just to stop Trump. I mean, I think this is still the biggest story. And people say, Sam, stop talking about Biden. He's out of office. 100 days ago today, Biden was still president. And all the same people that are trying to spin new yarns and new lies about Trump and about this administration did the covering up last year 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months ago on Joe Biden. And bringing it up is important because we need to judge and be critical of the credibility that was lost in this period. So I'm not crying over Scott Pelley here and Bill Owens leaving 60 Minutes. Absolutely not. And I think more of these departures will happen. And the left will, the people in the media will say, oh, it's because of pressure. Oh, it's because of this and that. It's market forces. People are tuning this stuff out because it went too far one way. Sam Mirejovsky, News Talk 840, The What's Right Show will be back in just a moment. Hi, welcome back. Sam Mirejovsky here. What's Right Show brought to you by Sam & Ash Injury Law, the only law firm to trust if you've been in an accident or been injured. 702-820-1234. That's the number. Offices in Nevada and California. 702-820-1234, because you deserve what's right. So, speaking of California, wow, Bill Maher had Adam Schiff on his show. Bill Maher, HBO guy, recently dined with Trump, suddenly saw the light that Trump is not the ogre that the media makes him out to be. Anyway, Adam Schiff talks about how he flew to San Francisco and had his luggage stolen.
So we're going to have to change how we do business in California. We're going to have to address people's legitimate concerns about crime. I was in South San Francisco 2 years ago after I had an experience in the city that all too many people had. When my luggage was stolen out of my car, they tell you don't ever leave your luggage in the car. I never do until the one time I did. And of course, it got stolen. And what was most memorable about the experience for me is I went to this Target in South San Francisco, 10 o'clock at night, and I'm getting the toiletries I'm going to need for my next 2 days in the city. I get to the cashier.
You went there by yourself, not an assistant.
I think I went there. Well, yes, I had somebody drop me off at the store, and so
I don't mean to make that an issue. See, I waited somewhere I should not have waited into it.
Okay. First of all, I had to get the clerk, which is hard to find, to unlock the shampoo or the whatever. So that's one thing. And then I get to the cashier. The cashier asked me if I want one of those Target bags with a little bullseye on it. And I said, yes, that Target bag is going to be my luggage for the next 2 days. And she asked me what happened, and I told her. And she basically said, in not so many words, yeah, Democrats are assholes. And I thought, if the cashier in South San Francisco at 10 o'clock at night believes that Democrats are assholes because the shampoo is locked up and my stuff got stolen out of the trunk, we've got a major problem that we have to address.
So that was Friday. By the way, on the same day, the San Francisco Chronicle, their editorial board, so the entire opinion staff of the San Francisco Chronicle wrote a piece that I immediately sent to you, Robbie. I saw this thing pop up and I sent it to you. Has California learned anything from the rise of Trump? Right? And it basically outlines how California is not governed well. The Democrats can't do it. Things are bleak. Right? Everything's falling apart. It's so bad. Even literacy rates in schools, like just the whole thing is a disaster. And now you've got this sleazeball, Adam Schiff, going, yeah, I just got my luggage stolen. What do you think we've been all dealing with? I want to shake this guy. What do you think? Why do you think I left California? Why do you think so many people are bailing on California? Hint, it's not the weather. It's not the beaches. It's not, it's not even the people. You have let criminals run amok under the guise of compassion. You have turned over education to the teachers' unions. Put another way, it's more about the teachers and the administrators than it is about the students. You can't put reservoirs in the water. Hell, you have fire hydrants that don't have water that come out of them. You go to the DMV and you feel like you're getting, processed at some sort of detention facility. Do you have any idea? Some of you here in Nevada may not realize this because you've never been to the California DMV. I remember the first time I went to a Nevada DMV. It was in late 2019. Yes, November, December, sometime around there. And I went to get my first driver's license. And I walked in and I felt like I was checking into a hotel compared to going to the California DMV where I'd been going for years, my entire life before that. DMV here is nice. And you might be listening to this going, Sam, actually, it's not that nice. I've been to at least 3 different DMVs here for different things in town, and they are all orders of magnitude better run, operated, and even nicer inside than anything you'll find in California. The 14th largest economy in the world, maybe 12 by some estimates, California is run like a third world country. It feels like a third world country. It's terrible. And it's not about California. This is about what happens when Democrats have unchecked power. And we can't let them at it. Even though they're now going, oh, we got to fix something. Oh, yeah, you think? All right, I'll be back tomorrow. See you then.